Hello, thank you for tuning in to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. It is now time for Side by Side, where we discuss issues relating to conflict, peace, and security. I am Reverend Father Robert Achiaga. The fuel scarcity is back in town, and if you move around Abuja, you will see many filling stations that are out of service, and the few ones that are in service, you will find a lot of long queues there. The black marketers who sell by the roadsides are also back in town. On my way to the radio station today, I branched to one of the filling stations where we usually take in petrol, and found that there was no NEPA supply, no electricity supply for the station to power their machines and sell petrol, and even their generator was down. I had to look for a roadside dealer, and then I bought a liter for 600 naira. So 6 liters, I had to pay 1,800 naira for 6 liters. And you wonder what many other Nigerians are going through. There were a lot of commuters who were left stranded by the roadside today. We hope that most of them will be able to make it to their places of work. And this fuel scarcity is very much a matter of security. We are hoping that the federal government and the agencies relevant to this matter will be able to act, and in time too, so that this matter can be quickly resolved. The last time we had a situation like this, it was quite protracted, and the economic effects were not mean in any way. Certain police stations that did not have fuel supply also suffered this, and it impacted security because when people called on the police to respond to security situations, their tactical response vehicles, which would not have petrol in them, would not be able to help them do this effectively. So we hope that government and all those concerned will be able to resolve the situation, and in good time. I am by my side here hosting this show together today is Chiedu Ude. Chiedu, good morning.
Good morning, Father Robert.
You were not early in the station. I guess it was because of the fuel scarcity.
Yeah, they blocked all the routes. So I did call almost 3 times for getting here.
Wow. And we are joined by 2 very special guests who will work side by side with us to make your time on today's show most profitable. We have in the studio Dr. Ode Ajike. He's a national security expert, a principal attorney at Dolce Marina Solicitors, and convener of Aruba Center for Policy and Strategy, Abuja. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Father.
We also have Honorable Tony Uche Ezekwelu. He is, of all things that he is first of all a farmer, and then he is an engineer, an industrialist, and a politician, a former chief whip of Anambra State House of Assembly. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Father, and Radio Maria, you are doing great.
Thank you very much. Now, today we shall be discussing the implications of the politics of 2023 for peace and security in the Southeast. But before then, let us take you through some headlines of interest, headlines bordering on conflict, peace, and security. We usually begin with the foreign scene, and this one concerns the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It says, Putin sorry for Lavrov's claim Hitler was part Jewish, and that is according to the Israeli Prime Minister. Let us bring you some more details on that headline. Now, Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, spoke to Italian television early last week. just days after Israel marked Holocaust Remembrance Day, one of the most solemn occasions in the Israeli calendar. When asked during the television chat to justify Russia's claim that it was fighting to denazify Ukraine when President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine is himself Jewish, Mr. Lavrov said, and I quote him, "I could be wrong, but Hitler also had Jewish blood. That Zelensky is Jewish means absolutely nothing. Wise Jewish people say that the most ardent anti-Semites are usually Jews." The comment sparked outrage in Israel, and understandably so. Nazi Germany murdered 6 million Jews in the Second World War, in what is now called the Holocaust. So Israel had demanded an apology from Russia, and it was reported that the apology did come from Putin himself. Mr. Bennett's office said that he had accepted Mr. Putin's apology and thanked him for clarifying his attitude towards the Jewish people and the memory of the Holocaust. Dr. Odi, in this headline and the little detail we have shared here, you'll find an aggregate of communication, history, diplomacy. When communication goes wrong, it tends to affect diplomacy. When it affects history, it affects so much. There could be some lessons here on how leaders and public office holders should be very sensitive when they are making public comments, isn't it?
Yes, that is essentially very true. For Putin to apologize to the Israeli government is a sign of responsibility on his own side. He understood that the foreign minister had made an error, and he quickly apologized, because there's that relationship between Israel and Russia. That relationship has been abiding and is come out of centuries ago. So the Nazification effort in Ukraine is purely directed at the Western world because of Western influence or Western incursion into Ukrainian affairs, and that is what Russia is prepared to ensure that they stamp out, because the Russians don't dress their soldiers in perfume clothes like the US military do. And they are doing it, they are very deliberate about it, and we are all seeing the results.
We are all seeing the results. Back here in Nigeria, we are heading into an election year 2023. And we can expect, given our history and our political culture, that there will be statements that will be made about past administrations, about present administrations, about ethnic groups, about regions, about religion, about all kinds of identities that are relevant to political calculations. And I am hoping that as leaders, as public figures, as politicians, as religious men make such statements, they will be very careful so that they don't undo the fabric of our national constitution, our national makeup, of our public life. Tony Uche, you are experienced in these matters because you were once a chief whip of Anambra State Assembly. So you know how serious public statements can be. And I'm hoping you can pass the message out much clearer.
Thank you so very much, Father. And because if you look at the way Nigeria is going as a president, it's quite not just worrisome, it is terrifying. It was the kind of thing that led to the 2015 general election, and then the attendant violence, and then the further division of Nigeria along ethnic and religious line. You know, some prominent people like Archbishop Hassan Kuka and the Elder Edwin Clark, the leader of Afenifere organization, so many other leaders even the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence, all moved to point out the fact that Nigerians, we need to, especially political leaders, we need to tone down the way we bring in the issue of ethnicity and religion and the selfishness in our political statements and undertakings, especially during elections. Most wars were caused by what people say by the word of the mouth. With the voice of the mouth, the word was created. And then with voice, wars are caused. And with also words, wars are resolved around the table. So I want to advise my fellow politicians, wherever you are. I am proud to say I'm a politician, because some people say I'm not a politician and that. Yes, I'm a politician. A core politician, a professional one. But as you can see, before you now take on politics as politics like a ministry, an advocate, like you are Reverend Father, Minister of Winning Souls for Christ, the issue of politics is about a ministry. I'm an apostolate for good governance, justice, equity, and fairness. And that's why I went into politics, because outside the temple of God, the most important and powerful thing is the temple of government. And that's why I want to tell our political leaders, those serving and those that intend to serve, please mind what to tell the public. Mind what to say, tell your aides and your supporters. Because some of the things you may say very easily, because the tongue can speak very easily, but the ear, the heart and the mind may not understand easily. And that will lead to something that you may not even control. So I want to tell every politician, every political leader, religious leader, and those involved directly and indirectly in issue of politics, leadership, and governance, stay away from, in fact, bridle your tongue against anything that will not be to the best interest of the generality of Nigerian citizens, or that bring further violence and then destruction of the fabric that holds us together as a people. If we all do this one way or the other and extol the principles and our manifesto, we will see that Nigeria will have a peaceful, fair, and free election, and we will be better for it.
Yes, we will be better for it if we all bridle our tongues. Another headline on the international scene, which is on the African front, says 11 Egyptian troops killed in terrorist attack, says army. The Egyptian army has been fighting against jihadist groups in the Sinai Peninsula for some time now. They have had quite some victories, but this is one of those moments when they record losses. Anywhere in the world, when armies, when states, when people rise up against terrorist groups, they have count not just victories but also losses. But it's very important that the Egyptian president Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has come out to say publicly that these terrorist operations will not defeat the determination of the country and the army to continue uprooting terrorism. I think the good thing about al-Sisi in this case is, after having spoken, he has ensured that it is backed out by action. So more soldiers have been deployed into the peninsula, more technology deployed there, and you can see visibly that the president is poised to make sure that these kinds of losses do not occur again. Back home in Nigeria, we also followed some headlines. The first says, United Nations disagrees with CAN, that is the Christian Association of Nigeria, says Nigeria will achieve peace if terrorists are reintegrated into society. Dr. Ode, this is a very sensitive one, so maybe I should bring out a few more details about the headlines. Now, last week, in a message to felicitate with Muslims celebrating Eid al-Fitr, the Christian Association of Nigeria said, and I quote, "We call on the federal government to reconsider the de-radicalizing and rehabilitating of the arrest of those arrested and those surrendered terrorists, simply because it seems the program considered laudable is becoming counterproductive." Now, they say the program is laudable, but on the other hand, it is becoming counterproductive. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres was in Nigeria on a 2-day official visit last week. On Tuesday, he met with the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, before proceeding to meet with families affected by the actions of Boko Haram insurgents in Borno, and also evaluate the impact of climate change on vulnerable communities. While in Borno State, and he made a statement about the same security policy, which sharply contradicted the position earlier taken by the Christian Association of Nigeria. This is what he said, I quote him: "Borno is now a place of hope, showing that the way to fight terrorism effectively is to invest in livelihoods, reintegration, and people's futures. The people I met today in the IDP camp want to go back home in safety and dignity. The way to address terrorism effectively is to provide not only hope, but a future of reality. The best thing we can do for peace is reintegrate those that in a moment of despair became terrorists, but want to now become citizens and to contribute to the well-being of their brothers and sisters." Dr. Ude, at the end of the Nigerian Civil War, reconstruction, reintegration, and rehabilitation were the 3 R's. Governor Zulum has brought that back to become his security policy to address the challenge of terrorism in Borno State. So he is rehabilitating, he is reconstructing, and he is also reintegrating. So far, it seems that is working, doesn't it?
Well, we must accept certain standards in this battle against insurgency or criminal insurgency or terrorism. One of the standards we must accept is that the terrorists or the insurgents are citizens of Nigeria. We must also accept that the government is the primary cause of insurgency and terrorism. They are the primary cause because they have avoided developing these areas. They have avoided developing these areas. So what we have is that we have badlands, we have safe havens for terrorists. And the government bringing them back as tons, they are called tons in security. These are people who have turned from their old ways. The government bringing them back is an acknowledgement of the fact that they are responsible and that these are citizens of the country. So there's nothing wrong with reintegrating them back into the system, back into the political system, back into their communities. There is nothing wrong. And you also need them because through them you get credible intelligence that you use to fight the insurgency or the terrorism that we are experiencing today. So I believe and I think that the government should increase their responsibility towards ensuring that some of these people are reintegrated back into the community. But it's not just for the government alone. It's also becoming very difficult psychologically. When you look at mass psychology of the communities in question in Borno and Yobe, in some of the northeastern states, the difficulty the communities are accepting these people back, because you look at someone who actually killed members of your family and he's suddenly forgiven, and readmitting him into the system becomes a challenge.
Empowered.
Good. So that is why we need psychologists, we need sociologists to get into those communities. We need the faith-based organizations to also get into those communities and talk to them, preach to them and make them see reason why they should reaccept these people and let them begin to live worthy lives as they have accepted to live worthy lives. So in counterinsurgency operations, there are opportunities for people who want to, retract their old ways. And there's also opportunities for those who don't want. They are met with that aggression from the state. But we must understand that the aims, structures, and strategies of terrorists or insurgents differ from place to place and depending on the type of organization. We have allowed, extremism to grow in Nigeria. And one thing that the Nigerian government has failed to do, including the development partners and all the international aid organizations that are supporting government activities in the Northeast, is that we've not been able to cut back or to cut off sources of recruitment. The reasons why these young men join terrorist groups, the opportunity cost is very low. Terrorist appeal is high. We've not been able to cut it back. So their process of recruitment is still open with a little as much as 5,000. Somebody is recruited to go and kill.
It's 5,000, not too much.
2,000, 5,000. Somebody is recruited to go and kill. So that appeal, that terrorist appeal, is a responsibility. It's one of the things the government should focus on. The economies are primitive. The whole area is largely undeveloped. So we'll begin to look at the mixed blessing of peace. Just like in Thailand during the Vietnam War. As the Vietnam War was coming to an end, the Thai government was complaining because their economy was directly linked to activities within that region in Asia. So today, the economy that is superior to every other economy is the development economy in broader states. So will they want terrorism to be rolled back? Because you can see a lot of developmental partners are paying for accommodation for 10 years. These are properties that ordinarily you get rent from those properties every other month. Some of them have paid for 10 years. Some of them have paid for 15, 20 years. And they are the people bringing in funds for, this reintegration, the re-radicalization process in Borno especially. So will they want insurgency to be curbed?
You have painted quite that picture here because running terrorism is costly and beneficial to some people. Ending terrorism is costly.
I also have an area I want to come to.
Yes, let's hear from you too.
You see, why they can and so many people who are victims of the terrorism are very scared about this issue of integration and the forgiveness and all this certain is partly because of what I told you now. Secondly, I have a little of military training. The issue of smoke screen, the issue of espionage, the issue of counter-espionage is all a very essential aspect of war. And terrorists are very good at it. They will send some of their best men, educated minds, to go and say they have renounced terrorism. They will come in their hundreds and thousands. Government fees them, give them money, rehabilitates them, they now have access and better equipment to now be doing espionage, doing intelligence for the terrorists. And let me tell you something, the issue of, say, de-radicalizing them, integrating them back. When those who are their victims have not been empowered and integrated back.
The question of social justice.
No, social justice. To me, my own assessment, I do not agree and accept that. Not in the long run, but in the short run. If you must rehabilitate and readmit the people to society, you will first of all solve the problem they have created by those victims in the IDP camps.
Doing the same thing, you rehabilitate them and you reintegrate them.
You rehabilitate the IDP camp people first rebuild their houses, and give them enough comfort over their dead ones, the killed ones, and the destruction they have meted out. Because the reason why you are seeing more people volunteering to go into terrorism is because if you are peace-loving, loyal, and stay in the IDP camp, you suffer. They even bring all these aids. The government officials will eat all of them, loot, and then embezzle all of them. And then also the leadership of the military and those involved are making more money from the war. If this terrorism war ends and they go back to their barracks, all those extra things they are making out of the field, where would they get it from? So you see that if Nigeria want to be very sincere about these issues, we have to look at it fundamentally from all angles. Those that are the victims are the people that should be rehabilitated and empowered first. After their own have been finished, those that are being radicalized, being trained and prepared, like Dr. D said, must be going through the process of regeneration for some years to make sure they are truly repentant. And when they have finished through their training, they become somewhere separate first. While others are the victims are properly rehabilitated and empowered. So the victim will also start forgetting the pains. Because if you bring in these people who are also potentially, because when you bring them back and you did not sustain the type of thing they are benefiting, you have given them when they were going these organization programs. By the time they go back to the society and they stay 1, 2, 3 months and they go back hungry, they'll go back and they have greater information to give over. So this is something we should be very careful in doing. But if you must do like what they are doing here in the north, what is good for the geese is also good for the gander. If you are trying to radicalize, rehabilitate them, and in the northeast, what about those insurgents or those insurgents in the southeast? What have you done about them?
It's better to leave as...
You see, we need to understand something as we drive progress in this conversation. The Office of the National Security Advisor, they have a very credible document on de-radicalization. De-radicalization is an integrated process. It concerns, most especially, when you look at the doctrine of counterinsurgency operations, you must first move into an area. You must hold the area and secure the area. Now, one of the ways of securing the area is also reintegrating people, de-radicalizing people who have become fighters or insurgents. Before you begin to think about moving people back to their homes and villages.
I agree with that.
Now, it's an integrated system, it's an integrated process. CAN is standing against it, possibly because they do not understand how integrated it is. A fighter will not just come and say he's now turned from his old ways and you admit him. There are processes, there are psychologists, there are military experts, there are social development.
In this Nigeria, if it's America or Europe, I agree with you. But Nigeria, I don't agree.
You see, listen.
I'm listening.
Listen, the doctrines that work in Europe or in Asia may not work here because of cultural differences. But I'm telling you that I'm
talking about sincerity of implementation.
Okay.
I am telling you about an integrated and credible de-radicalization policy by the Office of National Security Advisor. What
about the implementation?
If you take your time and study it, you will know that the implementation is also successful. You see, counterinsurgency is all about strategic intelligence. It's strategic intelligence. How do you get intelligence to be able to confront the insurgents or the terrorists? It is from these people. They give that intelligence. Yes, there may be leakages from everywhere, but no particular policy that is insulated from abuse. Yes, there may be challenges, but we are making progress.
But you know that every spy is a double agent.
And I want to say something at this point.
Yeah.
First of all, maybe we should arrange a separate show to discuss the whole question of de-radicalization and reintegration. Because,
that'd be good.
first of all, it's very important for the public to understand what de-radicalization is about and how it is being done. Then the policy frameworks around reintegration, so that questions of justice, questions of social psychology, questions of espionage, and other related questions can be exhaustively discussed.
You know what?
That's the first.
What you actually de-radicalize an element from is extremist or fundamental views. Before someone becomes an extremist, he must have had fundamental beliefs. We have fundamental believers, even in Christianity and Islam.
And that is actually the reason I think we need to look separately at these whole...
so there are so many things to be done.
Strategic actions.
There are so many things to be done.
The public understands, and then their perception of what government is doing in Borno is properly shaped. I have got to also inform you that about 2 weeks ago, we had in this studio Mustafa Mohammed, who is of Borno descent. We discussed perspectives on peace and security in Borno State. And preparation for that episode of Side by Side got us getting a lot of information about the de-radicalization, the construction, the reintegration program of the Zulum-led administration. And I have got to admit here quite publicly that a lot of positivity is coming out of that program. So if we have to discuss it, let's discuss it in a way that public opinion is shaped properly. People are more well informed. So let's create a separate episode for that.
That would be nice.
That'd be good.
All right. So, and you are going to be back here in the studio. All right. So let's move on. We have this headline that says, Soludo meets landlords, vows to reposition Onitsha back to its glorious past. This must be very good news to some people. So let's give you some of the details from that meeting. Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State, in continuation of his engagements with stakeholders in his domain, met with landlords in Onitsha last Thursday to dialogue on issues confronting the metropolis. The meeting took place at Sharon House by All Saints Anglican Cathedral. During the meeting, he revealed that his administration would restore law and order, reenact the Onitsha Master Plan, restore the Greater Onitsha Water Scheme, digitalize lands and assets in Anambra State, secure lives and property, among others. As part of his remarks, he is quoted to have said, "Criminals kidnapping people for ransom, killings, and destruction are not agitating but engaging in lucrative criminality. We know where these criminals are. It is better for them to repent, drop their arms, and come for empowerment, or else. We will come after them, and when we come, no house, bush, or forest inhabited by them will be spared. You cannot force people to stay at home without going to their various places of business. Force our children not to go to school and call it agitation. It is not agitation, but a criminal activity, and very soon all those will be addressed. The task forces for the enforcement of traffic offenses and stoppage of all forms of criminal activities will be established." Unquote. Now, Honorable Tony Uche, first of all, we have been discussing Governor Soludo. He is taking the bull by the horn, and by the standards and expectations of many, he is doing it the right way. This consultation, this level of dialogue and engagement is at the grassroots level, involving landlords. There are also stakeholders, aren't there?
Major stakeholders. Before that of the landlord, he first of all met, the first set of people he met were the managers of parks, the park management, the leaders of the arboros and others. He met with them and told them, please, we will no longer tolerate doing things the unlawful, the illegal, and the old ways. There should be a new way. He now moved in to meet the market traders and their leaders. Then he moved to meet with the landlords. And the meeting order, the traditional rulers, I met with traditional rulers. I met with PGs of the towns and traditional rulers. Now the landlords. He's also moving to meet all different stakeholders in a town hall meeting. Soludo came in with a high intellectual manifesto, a very lofty one that people are asking, can he implement? And now, from the way I started so far, in fact, his manifesto had a very sound and clear thought. I've read it over and over again. It started from 2010, when he ran for the governorship first. He talked about turning to Anambra economy into a Dubai-Taiwan economy. That's the model. He was part of the Dubai-Taiwan and some of this Asian tiger reformation of the economy when he was the consultant to United Nations and then IMF, World Bank, and he was part of the consulting for about 7 nations that are doing very well and even more today. So some of the models that they use there is what he now tried bringing back home. And that before, like what we talked about is security. Before you start implementing something for the people, you have to sit down and explain to the people, let them understand what you are doing. They ask you questions, you clarify to them. This is why the citizens most times oppose the policy of government, is that they do not understand.
Even if those policies will benefit them.
If they don't understand, they fight it. Like myself, I am somebody that's always very skeptical about what you tell me, except when you explain to me. I love superior argument. I am a so strong believer in superior argument. No matter the belief I hold, if I engage you and your argument is superior to mine, I drop mine and follow yours. Then if you practice your own, it didn't work, I go back to my own. So what Soludo has been doing so far in Anambra State, in engaging the stakeholders, is a work of development. And I tell you something, Anambra landlords in Onitsha, and others are some of the major stakeholders we have in the state. Now, the Onitsha master plan has been totally distorted. Onitsha was designed during the time of Sikh as the premier and followed up by the Opera. It has a very beautiful drainage system, road network, housing system. Most of them have been passed by. Most people have been built on top of
drainage systems.
Yeah. Built on roads.
Yeah.
And people are doing their trading on the road where there's markets where they will enter. They won't enter the market, they trade on the roads. The same thing is also happening in Hoka, in Onitsha, in Okuroba, and other places. Now, Onitsha is the main place if you hit Onitsha. And people say you're not joking. If you're able to restore Onitsha, everybody will queue up in the state. And that's why he's facing the Onitsha thing. And what he's doing so far, I will tell you, is excellent. He has marked out those places for demolitions. In Opoko. Opoko is the biggest slum we have in the southeast and the most dangerous slum we have in the southeast. It can be equated to Ajegule of old before Fashola came into Ajegule. And that's what he's doing now. So far, what he's doing is excellent. And if well implemented, and by the time you restore by the master plan, redesign things that works, business start thriving, economy start improving, and the criminality will start going down because people will start earning legitimate incomes and they'll be happier.
Dr. Ude, at the level of strategy, how do you evaluate the engagement with grassroots people like landlords in order to tackle not just social issues such as infrastructure, the reenacting of the original master plan of Onitsha, but also about the sit-at-home, curbing it? How masterclass is this approach?
It's a very laudable project and program that Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, has engaged. You see, there is nothing best than speaking to the people. Within the political system, there are feedback loops. And when you engage the people, you get to know what their challenges are. They also get to know what your programs are. And from every meeting, Soludo will take out exactly what the people need. And addressing the needs of the people is addressing the needs of security. Soludo wants to overstretch Anambra with development, industrial development. And overstretching Anambra with industrial development is security. Because security is development, and development is security.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what he's doing. I like what he's doing. Every plan has been carefully thought out. Every plan has been carefully thought out. And as they are moving with their programs, if there's any form of resistance, they still have that flexibility to retweak the programs. So I salute his efforts, and we should encourage him. The issue of sit at home, you know, the government, Southeast government, played into the hands of IPOB. It's still the same thing. When you don't engage the people, when you make the people feel that you are too elitist, you create that gap. And once there's a gap, IPOB feasted on it. IPOB feasted on it. But we've been having issues, you know, really correcting the outcomes from this sit at home. Because we have something else in mind. We are foreclosed from thinking about other motivating factors, you know, that have, you know, factors that have led to this sit at home. And once we analyze it properly, we'll be able to find a solution to it.
Once we analyze it properly, we will be able to find a solution to it. Let's take just one more headline before we go, or headlines, because the issues are all related. You will remember that last week, one of the hot headlines in the country was about the UK government's policy on separatist groups in southeast Nigeria. The Daily Trust newspaper carried the headline that said, UK finally acknowledges designation of IPOB as terrorist group, bars violent members from asylum. The cable had this one that said, UK recognizes Nigeria's designation of IPOB as terrorist group, makes U-turn on asylum. Even this morning, the People's Gazette, an online news outlet, carried the headline, UK backs Buhari regime, designates IPOB members as terrorists who shouldn't be. If you have been following Loretta Onoche, one of the president's aides, she also made a post about this. As similar headlines were churned out by news outlets, the impression that held sway was that the UK government had designated IPOB as a terror group. This made the UK government to issue a clarification last Friday, and part of it reads, "We are aware of inaccurate reporting circulating in the media and online that the UK government has added the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, to the UK's list of terrorist groups or organizations banned under UK law. These reports are untrue. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, is not a proscribed organization in the UK. The inaccurate reporting relates to the 13 April 2022 publication by the UK government of a revised country policy and information note, CPIN, on separatist groups in southeast Nigeria, including the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB." So this message wasn't even primarily about IPOB.
Yeah.
It was about human rights concerns raised by the activities of different separatist groups. And yet, some media outlets, whether out of mischief or whatever calculations that were there, decided to say the UK government also had enlisted IPOB as a terrorist group. It's good that this clarification came out.
Yeah.
You see, we're in the age of the post-truths, where there is comprehensive assault on public intelligence. You know, you cited a media assistant to the president who was also propagating this falsehood, inaccurate information. It's most unkind to the people. And we don't have a government that has an information wing that engages the people truthfully. And that is why we have the kind of challenges we are having today in Nigeria. The Minister of Information has that responsibility, or the media handlers to the president have that responsibility to ensure that only the truth is passed to the people. Only the truth on critical national issues. You see, demonstration could mean when people are talking. When people are talking about a particular issue, it represents demonstration. It's not just when they're on the streets, carrying placards or sticks and stones. No, even when people are holding public conversations, they may be demonstrating against a policy. We should encourage the truth. We have an experienced minister of information, very experienced, and he should be able to direct that, you know, in public conversations or on very sensitive issues like IPOP or, you know, separatist agitation, or even the crude oil theft conflict in the South, or even the problem we have, you know, in the Northeast. It's a collective problem, and in all parts of the North. You know, we should reclassify these issues, reclassify them, and let people know what the truth is, instead of censoring the truth. And people are now allowed to grapple in the dark and find stories that will suit, you know, that will be crowd pleasing and create more instability in the land. So that is effectively my position on it.
Okay, Honorable Tony Uche.
Yeah, thank you, Father. You see, when those things were coming up from different headlines of different newspapers, then later from the media handlers for the presidency, you know, at times these media handlers still do not really, I think they do not really understand that they are no more in opposition APC, they are now government in power. That is not about propaganda. That you make people believe in what you are giving by giving a credible information, knowledge, and the credible facts. You know, by the time you start talking out of your own personal imagination, and even some of them never even read the report before they started making this particular noise. And you will be, when some of us that were privy to receiving and reading the documents before they started all this, they started talking to people in social media. A lot of people said that we are lying this and no. It was a heated based argument among all the elites and others in the southeast of Nigeria within those periods. And luckily last Friday, the British government now gave a clarification. As I told you last time I came here, IPOB is not the only pro-Biafran agitation groups. There are about 15 major groups. There are far more than that, but the one that I recognized, about 15 of them. We have the Biafran Revolutionary Movement. In fact, there are very, very many. I don't need to start them in all of them here. Some do not believe in peaceful secession for Biafra. Some do not believe that they need a peaceful. Some believe in violence. Some believe that the IPOB, the myself, and others doing this non-violence, non-conformist thing are taking too long. That they are ready, they have arms and everything. They want it by force, martial way. Now, and most times when some of these groups act, everybody says IPOB ESN. IPOB had been a peaceful, a non-violent group. That is the principle of the formation, the document formation, their manifesto, everything is purely non-violent, non-conformist, lawful and legitimate means of achieving sovereignty. What are they asking for majorly? Let us have a referendum. They didn't say by force. No, they said let the government make a provision for referendum for people to decide where they want. You know, that's the major thing they are agitating for. By the time these things now started happening, a lot of people, You know, before this violence post 2018, this kind of violence was not in the Southeast.
Yes, I remember.
Now,
you were on this program when
yes.
we discussed perspectives on peace and security
beautiful.
in Anambra
So now,
State, and you had given us quite some interesting history of IPOB, and we got to the point where, by everyone's admission, the IPOB that we thought started from the beginning, which was non-violent, became splintered into different groups, or whatever it is that happened, something happened. And now there is some level of violence that can be attributed to either the splinter groups or whatever it is that we related to IPOB. But I think the point I'm trying to make is this. We are going to discuss today peace and security in the Southeast.
Yeah.
So we're not going to take IPOB now as a monolith.
All right,
when we come there, we will highlight matters relating to that.
Good.
In the meantime,
in my own conclusion here,
yes.
What I'm saying in effect is that, in line with our security expert here, you know, I'm a development economist. Apart from engineering, I'm an economist, and principally development economics. And you know, if you actually want to achieve peace and security, keep the people happy, comfortable, and engaged, and you get the rest. And that's what Soludo is doing in Anambra State, and that's what I want to also advise other Southeast and other governors across the state, like what Zulum is doing. Zulum, Soludo, I mean, wonderful, excellent. That's the nature of thing Fashola did in Lagos to set the foundation for development that it has come to be presently now. So we want to use the opportunity to also emphasize that this is the way to go. Engage the people. And if the federal government had been engaging those dissent groups from beginning, when some of this started, be it Boko Haram, people said engage them. But instead of engaging, they went the martial way, killed their leaders, and the Bible said, strike the shepherd and the sheep scatter. So now is the best thing for us to do in this country. It's not too late, in as much as we have lost so much. A lot of things have gone bad. But if we start now to start engaging people in the grassroots, interest group, engage them, have a special group of experts whose job is to engage these people in their separate ways, and then you see that Nigeria will start getting it right.
I'm sure you would agree that there is a need for not just the government of Anambra State, but also the federal government to engage the people at the very grassroots, and including these groups, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true. Engaging the people is the political solution to, the problem of criminal insurgency in Nigeria. Engaging the people, the foundational reason why you need to engage the people is because the government is corporate. The government is the cause. The government is the cause. Nigeria is so blessed, so rich, but you cannot accept that Nigeria has been able to transfer that wealth to a critical mass of men. We can't agree that Nigeria has done that. And when Nigeria has been unable to do that, what you find is instability. But there are so many ways we are getting this thing wrong. I believe our national security objective should be to enhance the life of the individual and the community, and not the metaphysical justification of the state. Our focus has been on the state, making sure that the state will exist. We are not primarily concerned with the well-being, the functioning of critical life chances of the individual and the community. So we must ensure that the state exists, that nothing happens to the state. But if we have that paradigm shift into considering the individual, seeing the individual as a referent object of security, a lot of things will change. When we understand that there are children who are out of school, and it's our responsibility as a state to ensure that these children are in school, our attitude will change. When we understand there are people who go hungry, and that a certain percentage of our people, some say it's 70%, I don't have the statistics immediately, that they live below $2 a day, our attitude will change, and the attitude of these people will change. If there are social safety nets that people can run into if they are hard up, Or people believe that, yes, for accommodation, I can always, the state will always prepare or present an accommodation for me. Or the state will be able to give me this social safety, that will show that I have dignity as a human being. Their attitude will change, and the state will also improve. But here, nobody takes care of anybody. Everybody is a local government area on himself.
Not just
everybody.
Everybody is a federal government unto himself.
So you see, those challenges are coming. So we need to recalibrate. We need to recalibrate the objectives of our national security, first and foremost. And we need to understand that the state cannot be without the people. Without the people, there will be nothing like a state. If everybody dies, within a particular state, will that state still exist? So the state exists for the purposes of the people, and the people must be the central and the primary, referent for security, for peace to exist and function. So I have suggested earlier in the one program we had here, I suggested that there should be a peace-building infrastructure. So the state is not just fighting to prevent or dictate insecurity. The state is also fighting to reverse the trend of insecurity.
Yeah.
So when you see, as he mentioned before, you deferred it for further conversation, when he mentioned that there are fragmented groups all across the southeast, leaving hardship and violence on the people, it's called outbidding. It's called outbidding. They are trying to outbid each other so that they can have relevance. So they are trying to hit targets, civilian targets, in very powerful ways, so that they can secure the sympathy of the people or the attention of the people. But from the moment we begin to analyze what their motive is, and wave aside fear and cohesion, they will be making a very great inroad into solving the issues of insecurity.
We should not just be interested in the actions of groups in the southeast. We should be even more interested in the motives behind those actions. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to take one last headline and fill you in on details of that headline, and it will become a discussion point for us. Please do not go away.
Forum SMBLF. Chief Ayo Adebanjo, leader of Afenifere. Professor George Obiozo, President General Ohaneze Ndi Igbo Worldwide, and Dr. Pogo Bitrus, National President, Middle Belt Forum. Speaking during an interview on Arise TV on Tuesday, Chief Edwin Clark in particularly condemned what he described as maltreatment suffered by Southeast region as a result of the monopoly of leadership by the North. He called for the presidency 2023 to be zoned to the Southeast, warning that, I quote him, if zoning, which will heal the wounds, is not done, there will be no Nigeria. Nobody will remain in this country as a second-class citizen. End of quote. To his mind, the people of the Southeast have been treated as second-class citizens for too long. It must end, he continues to emphasize. With these and other warnings coming from different quarters of the country, we have decided to look at, again, implications of the politics of 2023 for peace and security in the Southeast. Now, let's begin with a general view of the Southeast geopolitical zone as part of the Nigerian Federation. The thumping allegation is that people from this zone have been treated as second-class citizens. Honorable Tony Uche, how so is this allegation?
Well, the obvious is the obvious. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. it is very clear and obvious that the people of the southeast region of Nigeria have been so badly treated and maltreated in this country that even those that used to believe so much in this one Nigeria thing now have started having second thoughts. Even the elites and the elders who were beneficiaries of the Nigerian wealth are no more feeling comfortable and secured as Nigerians. I'll tell you without mincing words that when the issue of Masop started in 1999-2000, I was still a student union leader then, the coordinator of NANS Zone B, comprising the old Eastern Nigeria plus Bendel. We had a discussion with Chief Ralph Wazlike in Lagos because Masop was formed in Lagos, started in Lagos, as a maltreatment and manipulation of our people before it came down to the southeast in 2000. He had to move because as when he was doing it in Lagos, it was a general thing, but the headquarters was in Lagos. So now people people in the west and others started attacking him. So he had to move down to southeast. I'll tell you something. When he started his agitation, and he went about meeting Igbo leaders across different areas, leaders in the business world, traders, government officials, student youth leaders, labor leaders, and others across board, because it was becoming unbearable. And today it's worse than it was in 1999. And that was why our people raised funds for him. A lot of us joined the Masop, moved down. We now have to move down to east from Enugu to Okwe. And we had the headquarters of Masop. And then the people, the masses, joined with even the earlies. So they're contributing. And there's something like most times that people don't tend to understand. That when people feel so bad, out of their poverty, they decide on their own to contribute to their own liberation. You see, when things have gone this bad, that poor people contribute 1,000 naira every Sunday.
Was that in church or because you mentioned Sunday there?
No, it's a Sunday contribution. That's what we call it. We call it Sunday seed.
But not in church?
Not in church.
So there are all kinds of seed you never told me. The only seed I knew was...
Father, I know that whenever I talk about offerings, these pastors are never get interested.
You are not licensed to be collecting seed.
So, now, you see, by the time these poor people riding Okadas, farmers, peasant traders, and all these people started contributing for their own liberation, you know that something is getting wrong. Something is very wrong. Because the big men were afraid that they have properties in Lagos, in Abuja. If you have this Biafra thing, we lose our property that we have in Kanu, in Meduguri, in Lagos, everywhere. That was what the big men were saying. Until it started dawning on them that they are also not just technocratic citizens, even at their own levels. So now, gradually, when this issue of migration started hitting harder and harder and harder on the Southeasterners, by the time Obasanjo came into power, he started looking at this. He started the talk. But Obasanjo started providing a opportunity for talk. And he started the talk. And then he said, okay, what are your demands? They made their demands very clear. That we, Masop means, movement for the isolation of the sovereign state of Biafra. Now asking, why do you want to go out of Nigeria? After much noise, and the first it at home was done by Masop.
So sit at home is not an invention of IPOB.
It started in 2000.
With Masop.
Yes, and that one was the biggest blow Nigeria have ever had. Igbos from across the whole country closed their shop and offices. In the whole 36 states and Abuja, Nigeria was shut down. Those that are traders, those that are drivers, dropped their thing for that day, Nigeria was literally shut down. And the government had to start talking. Now, usually it was done on about 2 or 3 occasions in the Masop time. So by then, Obasanjo had to now start putting the people talk. Why did Obasanjo bring so many people in his government for the Southeast?
Honorable Tony, I'm going to bring you back to the question.
Okay.
There is the allegation of maltreatment of Southeasterners.
Yes.
How true? How so? How so is that? Because, and as you answer the question, just think of this bipartite way of thinking about it. So you have the Igbo elite, and you have the ordinary Igbo man in the Southeast, who really has been maltreated. Is it the elite, most of whom have remained in power, have been ministers and all, or is it
my brother?
So we want to first of all discuss the idea of maltreatment.
I want to answer it plainly. Both the masses and the political elites are marginalized, are ill-treated. Because we have ministers, because it's a must that every state must have a minister.
You have had more than ministers, I must say.
Huh? No, I'm coming there.
Every state in the Southeast has had a governor.
Yes.
They have had state assemblies.
You must have those.
They have had monies allocated to them.
Beautiful. I'm saying that.
Like other states.
I'm saying that.
Under the Jonathan administration, an Igbo man was the secretary to the government of the federation.
Will you allow me to go for the first time?
No, I'm just trying to, create the canvas so that you can rein in your points.
Father, I am a very open-minded person.
Sure.
For the first time in the history of Nigeria, Obasanjo met an Igbo man, Inspector General of Police, since after the creation of Nigeria, after independence. Then later...
How many Igbos have been governors of Central Bank?
Governors of Central Bank. I know of, there are about, Charles Soludo was governor, and who else again?
Under the Buhari administration, it has been Emefiele. And he was inherited, really.
Excuse me, mind you, we're talking about Southeast.
Yes. No, we're talking about also Igbos.
No.
Not just Southeast, but also Igbos.
The topic is Southeast. If you go into Igbo generally, you miss the point.
My questions do not undermine the claim that there is maltreatment. It's just so that you can indicate precisely what that maltreatment consists
That's exactly where I'm going.
Okay.
Let me tell you, being in power is not when you have something that your constitution guarantees you to have. It is when you have access to those privileged areas that is not strictly guaranteed that you must have, but that you should have because there's no iron ceiling.
Okay, so the first level of maltreatment is that there is an iron ceiling that bars the Southeasterner from getting into what you call
offices. For instance, there's never been an Igbo man to be the chief judge of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
But I don't think those appointments are made based on who is who, right?
No, it is done so. Everything is strategic. It's by policy.
Let us hear more.
Then I will also tell you that the most fundamental people are talking now, why can't a Southeasterner be the president of Nigeria? Is it that people don't have people that are qualified there? But when you start looking for people that are most qualified and meritorious in area that will serve the president, you now bring some of the best that the Igbos or Southerners represent. Now, I want to let you know...
Okay, so the Igbo man not being an elected president is one of those areas of maltreatment.
It's one of the major aspect of it. Because if you tell me that Nigeria started on a tripod, east, west, and north, and then later divided into 6 political zones, and you said, and you deliberately by design, that somebody from the south is though better qualified than the person that can become president will not be president because from the southeast. Then that tells every woman from top to bottom, from bottom to top, from top to bottom, that they are not really part of Nigeria, that they are being used to build Nigeria for others. Now, if you talk about power, the power in Nigeria, Federal Republic of Nigeria, is the president. That is power.
Say something.
Everyone, the power in the state is the governor.
So, by
Everyone is an appendage of power.
Honorable Tony Uche, by your conclusion, the 3 R's initiated by the governor of this one
was totally abandoned by policy of the federal government, but never implemented.
abandoned.
But never implemented.
Oh, but it was started anyway.
It wasn't started, it was only pronounced and dropped.
For me,
Let's have your take.
For me, I see these issues differently. And I will tell you why. Nigeria is a very, is a timeless drama. Nigeria is a timeless drama where everybody from every ethnic group complains about marginalization.
True.
And yes.
I was waiting for him to finish so that I will also bring my complaint.
But you didn't allow me to finish. You saw me halfway.
We'll come
I'll
back.
come back there.
I'll come back to you.
So you see that everybody complains about marginalization in one form or the other. The reason is because we have low technological penetration and poor industrialization. It's not because of ethnicity, it's not because of religion. Religion and ethnicity are not the primary threats to the survival of Nigeria. But we must outsource, outsource the cause to something. Igbos are marginalized in Nigeria in terms of government opportunities. And if you want to understand it better, you look at the two civils that we have, or the two structures that we implement in Nigeria. We have the formal structure, and we have the informal structure, which is the primordial political system that we have. And you see, from the informal structure complements the formal structure. In every political system where there are two structures or two civils, the president makes appointments of ministers. The president makes appointments of people who occupy certain offices, which will make time to be sensitive. And a particular ethnic group under this leadership are not included in those appointments. Now, to balance that structure, the political system, you go to the formal structure, the primordial structure, and you look for certain persons from that area, and you give them appointments. The reason why you give them appointments is for them to stabilize the critical mass of men from their areas and show that there's a resemblance of government acknowledgement when you appoint their sons and so on. But we've seen some of those people accommodated under the informal structure. They go there and behave as if it was meant for them. Currently, we have a chairman of NNPC, that is from the Igbo stock. This is very, very true. Now, we complain mostly, because I'm Igbo, of course, I'm Igbo. We complain mostly because we think that security has been politicized to the extent that there are no Igbos who are commanding officers or who are heads of services, certain military services across board, from the Army, Navy, Air Force, including the police, or any other critical national security agency. There is no Igbo man there. But we fail to understand that the military, to a very large extent, has been insulated from politics. The only problem we have with the military is that some generals stayed for so long and made the top very heavy. But who chooses who can work with you? You choose who you think you can work with. But across board, across military establishments, there is fairness across all ethnic groups. But the military is one of the largest bureaucracies in Nigeria. Not the largest, but it's a very formidable bureaucracy. But above all, as I keep saying, yes, we are marginalized. We are talking about unity schools. There are scores meant for people from the southeast, which is usually higher. And there are scores meant for people from other zones, which is usually lower. Then you come to the issue of presidency. They now feel, even an appointment of permanent secretaries is shared across board, You come to the presidency and you feel that these people are not capable. At that point, you throw it open. But in other areas, you ensure that there's quota system. You remember that it's part of a constitutional requirement. But for the presidency, you throw it open, that anybody can come and compete. So we are properly marginalized, but not as we see. That marginalization, what we see there is the tyranny of the majority. And remember that we are practicing democracy. It's the majority. So if we need to do anything concrete about it, it has to start from the Constitution by adopting a strategy or a constitutional provision that will allow people from different zones to present, candidates for presidency. So that there will be zoning actually in the Constitution, and from there we enhance competence.
Okay, now something different is happening presently.
Okay.
Across the entire South, different groupings are now speaking with one voice, sounding it loud and clear, that for fairness, equity. And then I remember last week when we had this program, you said that the first victim of injustice is security.
It's security.
You repeated that several times. And then now you have groupings, formidable, credible groupings, with their leaders saying that for fairness and equity, that the Southeast should produce the next president. And then I'm sure he's going to give you an opportunity to answer your question fully. Edwin Clark said that the feeling of alienation of the Southeasterners explains separatist agitations in the zone and the pervasive insecurity there. They therefore argue that the emergence of a Southeast president come 2023 is necessary for the well-being of the region and Nigeria as a whole. Well-being of the region and Nigeria as a whole. What do you think?
First of all, I totally agree and align with Edwin Clark and also the leader of Afenifele and others on that particular stand, that if you want peace, bring in equity and fairness, bring in justice. Let me tell you one thing that will touch you. My son, a 10-year-old boy, went to write the Federal Government College entrance examination. He got 123. He applied for FSTC, Oka. He was denied admission. And I told him, Chesemde, you are an ET. It means blockhead. I, your father, ask your mother, ask anybody. I went and brought all our results. I was the best in commentary. The mom was and all that. How come this happens to you? I said, Daddy, you are calling me son, not Daddy, Papa. I don't cheat in exams like you taught me. I wrote, and there was so much of this COVID-19 statum and all that, and everything COVID-19 stuff. And I had to study on my own. I put in my best. But if you said, but by the time the cutoff came out, general cutoff, he saw somebody from Castena entering with 12. Someone was Zamfara entering with around 9, and Sokoto on that. He brought the paper. They opened it and showed me. Saying, Papa, you said I am an 80. That's why I could not get admission. Then why should somebody get admission with 12? The blockhead that cannot even answer any question got admission, and you told me that I'm brilliant, I'm intelligent, that will not get admission. This is unfair and unjust, and then I tell you, I hate Nigeria. 10-year-old boy, and don't call me a Nigerian again. I hate Nigeria, and if they don't give me this admission, that I will tell you that I will be a thorn in the flesh of Nigeria. A 10-year-old boy, do you know what he did? I told him, don't speak alone. I will talk, I will video you and post. I posted it on Facebook.
I hope you didn't post it.
I did.
No.
Let me tell you, I posted it.
That's interesting, really.
I posted it, and people from everything commenting. Do you know, any people are calling me from DSS, a lot of people to bring it down. I said I won't. Do you know eventually this boy got admission because of that post? Now, it's not everybody. He was able to do it because he's my son. And because he had that blood and training, that to say no when there's injustice. Now, this is exactly like happened in Nigeria. Somebody that could not... Good. Somebody that could not even show where his school sat is the president of Nigeria. And you tell me that an Igbo man that's a doctorate degree holder, a person not qualified, or talk about merit when it comes to our turn. Now, in Nigeria, let me tell you something. Like he said, if you provide the development, accessibility to power, and accessibility, sense of belonging to the people, you definitely create peace automatically. Because like the agitations, these particular new agitations for the issue of the greater agitation for the sovereign state of Biafra became louder after 2015. And it started from 2012, 13 and upwards. Became louder. By the time you see that, and after 2015, 2016, it skyrocketed. Because, like he said, if you want to talk about insecurity of my region, no single Igbo man is there to be part of the Security Council to discuss it. What do you intend to achieve? But let me tell you something. If Nigeria is really a nation that will work the way it should be, that want peace and security, everybody to work together, you keep every region, every place have sense of belonging in the system. And once everyone has a sense of belonging, it will down tension. And by the time, look at it, when Yar'Adua picked Jonathan as vice president, and when the South was everywhere blowing up, bombing, kidnapping, South. By the time their brother became president, it calmed down. They now have access to power. They can go to Abuja, share what others are sharing. I am not an advocate of sharing national cake, but we must bake it first. But what I'm saying that in almost every area, when you have a problem, you call an Igbo man to come and fix it. Then when it becomes the time for the man at the top to decide the fate of Nigeria, you tell me that an Igbo man is not fit to be there. And a Southeast is not qualified to be there. If Nigeria wants to develop and meet up with other developing world and developed countries, make an Igbo man a Southeasterner the president of Nigeria. Even if the most of us can, even though that did not go to school, now outwit others in businesses. If they bring their own business interests, their entrepreneurship skill, and the skill of surviving business, Nigeria will become better. Nigeria needs an Igbo man, a certain more than an Igbo man needs Nigeria to become president of Nigeria. And that's my own submission if you have Nigeria.
Yeah, you made an important point. Yeah, you started with fairness and equity. Now you made the point that on merit and then also on delivering on results, that the Southeasterner, it is a strong case for them. Dr. Ude.
Yeah, there's no point being very emotional about this. We have a system that is skewed. We have a system that encourages the tyranny of the majority. Yes, across Nigeria, from the north to the west to the south, we have very intelligent men. We have very intelligent and capable people. We have also seen states managed by well-read people, and they have failed. Even under this dispensation, we still have one state that has competently failed, that governance is inadequate, yet the governor has a PhD. Okay? So it's not about education. It's about competence. It's about doing the right thing. Yes, every other group, Papa Clark has been clamoring, talking about justice. Yes, I support that. For fairness, there are only two zones that have been unable to produce presidents in Nigeria. The Southeast, and I think the Northeast.
Southeast, Northeast.
Northeast. So, if we're talking about fairness, we should give an opportunity to those zones.
To the Northeast.
To the Southeast or the Northeast.
And
to produce the
incidentally, the insurgency that is actually troubling everybody is in the Northeast. In the Northeast.
And when you go back to history, when you go back to strategic history, we've always had problems from the Northeast. Remember, the northeast is the same part of the Banu Empire, the gateway to the Mediterranean, to North Africa,
and the Sahel.
And the Sahel.
Yeah.
We've always, our challenge has always been from that area.
Well, before that place becomes the only challenge, let me just ask you about 2015, because it's very important to make this case in a way that is more appealing than some people out there are making. Now, before 2015, there was a pervasive feeling in the north of Nigeria that power needed to go to the north for peace to reign in Nigeria.
Yeah.
You know, under Jonathan, the insurgency became too complicated to handle. Jonathan did his best to rein it in shortly before the general elections.
Yeah.
But there was the general feeling that if power went back to the north, the insurgency will quieten down. That never happened. It never happened.
It couldn't have happened.
So,
it couldn't have happened.
What do we say about people who think that if a Southeasterner becomes the president of Nigeria, the separatist movement, the agitation and the insecurity we are now seeing there will die down?
Okay, let me tell you why. The two areas, the complexion of insecurity in the two areas are different. The causes are different. In 2015, when Jonathan tried to do all that he could, the northern elders came together and they were against it. They were against it. They were against the efforts of the government. They were accusing the military of deliberately killing their people. And they felt that they had these fighters as a bulwark or to outbid the agitators who were in the south-south. So until now, that is beginning to consume them much more than they had expected. That they have turned around to say, we are destroying ourselves. And they're allowing all the operations going on, and they're supporting all the operations.
But don't you think the same thing will happen in the southeast?
In the southeast, primarily, the problem in the southeast, yes, is separatist agitation. The problem in the southeast is that for a long time, the governments in the southeast, I mean all the southeast governors, they have failed to educate their people. The NSA also has failed in educating the people, because it's not just to advise the president on issues of national security. They are supposed to be a bridge in ensuring that there's effective communication between National Assembly, between the people and the government, and ensure that the programs of the president are satisfied and implemented. It's part of their responsibility. It's not just about national security advice to the president. Now, so that's why I said they have also not done very well. The Southeast government allowed a certain narrative to fly, and it continued, and it ate into the people. Today in the Southeast, they believe that self-determination, self-government is secession. That is what everybody believes. Even the educated think that self-government or self-determination is secession. It's not secession. What it means is more participation in government.
More inclusion.
More inclusion. That is what it means.
Yeah.
At the highest level.
And yes, self-determination just means more inclusion in government, more participation in government. But today, they believe that it's secession.
So does that mean if by 2023 we have an Igbo president,
that would
mean more inclusion?
No, if we have an Igbo president, it may not resolve this insecurity in the southwest. Because the insecurity...
Southwest or southeast?
In the southeast.
Southeast, okay.
If we have an Igbo president, it may not resolve the insecurity in the southeast. Because the insecurity in the southeast has become, they are splintered.
It's far beyond agitation now.
It's not far beyond agitation. It's more ideological. Okay? It's more or less
underground economy now.
It's more or less
kidnapping.
Yes, it's more or less criminal insurgency.
There is also politics involved in it, right?
Yes, there is politics of insecurity.
And the political actors behind the criminals.
Not necessarily political actors. I hope we will have time to, allow me to dimension why we have gotten to that level. Because we keep misreading or, wrongly analyzing the
Go ahead.
Now, every insurgent group, every insurgent group has its own aims, structures, and strategies. It's not the same. It varies. And you find out that here we use one strategy to attack insurgent groups, force, because it's a misconceived understanding of force. We misconceive force to be power. Force is not power. Force is only a mechanism towards achieving power or getting power to work for you. So, but here we'll adopt force. Now, you know that a troop surge in Afghanistan, in Iraq, was able to calm down tension or insurgency, sectarian insurgency in Iraq. But a troop surge in Afghanistan didn't do much. The international community had to negotiate in Bosnia. The negotiation failed in Syria. Completely failed in Syria. But it worked in Bosnia. So you have to look at the nature of an organization. Then you now deploy strategies that will fit their strengths and their weaknesses. IPOP in the southeast, in Nigeria, started as an integrated group. There are networks, social networks were built. Leaders also had networks with their local communities. But the elite didn't accept it. Only the poor masses accepted it. And they were being fed with all those stories that they were going to have a Biafra. You cannot have a Biafra unless there is blood, 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 and globally the world becomes unstable and it catches the attention of the world before they will start looking your way. And we are gradually, on a daily basis, we are losing strategic importance, to the Western world. So,
which makes it very difficult for them to even intervene.
Good. Now, they failed. When they failed, they couldn't become an integrated group because an integrated group has cohesion.
Yes.
Like the Afghan Taliban. No matter what is going on, no matter the infighting, no matter the side switching, they are very resilient.
And wherever their members are,
they are very
together.
Yes, they are very resilient, and they look up to a leader. Now that failed. They quickly tried to become a vanguard group. A vanguard group, yes, tight leadership, but pre-existing links to local communities very weak, because one part of that society refused to acknowledge, to accept. Now they started as a vanguard group.
That's elite.
Yeah, the elite. They started as a vanguard group and left the integrated group posture, became a vanguard group. And there are strengths and weaknesses of vanguard groups. The head was cut down, which is Kanu, who is currently being detained, and they got fragmented and became very parochial as parochial groups. Splinter groups all over the place. No command. Now, the minus from what government did, at the point that government was going for Kanu, government should have ensured back home that they cut them off from rebuilding. Do you understand? So now it's more or less like a criminal insurgency. Kidnapping is of a predatory commercial nature. Everybody wants to outdo the other. That's why I talked about outbidding. There are various factions.
Yes.
It's not IPOP doing some of these things. It's just criminals who have now constituted themselves, flying the same banner of IPOP or flying the same banner of separatist agitation, and they are levying hardship on the people, killing people. Now, the error we now have as a government is that we believe that criminal insurgents are rational choice people. They are not rational choice people. Now, when they do certain things, when they commit certain acts, what they want to show is power. What they want to show is power. It's called jiu-jitsu politics. The government does not understand that it's jiu-jitsu politics. When they attack the government at their area of strength, and the government will overreact. Then when the government overreacts, there are collateral damages. There are individuals who were unsympathetic to the cause of the organization who will now be, either killed, maimed, or thrown into detention. And it just makes those people realize that they don't have a future in Nigeria, in the country. They are playing up the government. The government will overreact. And those people, they will now tell those people, you see, you don't have any future in Nigeria. That is why, because the police will come, the military will come, bomb them, knock them off, and do all kinds of things, and keep a lot of them in detention. I'm coming just to let them know that they don't have any future in Nigeria. It's politics. It's judicial politics that they play into the hands of the people. And for the people, both their objective and subjective sense of security becomes impaired. And once it's impaired, fear is their only reason. They become afraid. And when you exercise fear, you become more defensive. It becomes more costly. Government increases surveillance. Government increases discrimination. Government increases all kinds of operations to break doors, detain people, and do all kinds of things. But what the insurgents was actually expecting was anger from the system. Because anger is repressive. Because if you are really angry about what the terrorist or the insurgent has done, you will come against him with full force. Especially now that there are splinter groups. Increase criminal, criminal efforts at criminals. Improve your legal system to make sure that some of them are thoroughly punished for others to see. So they expect that anger, but we don't give anger, we give fear. And we believe coercion is the reason. Because government have been intimidating people, creating fear in them. So they believe that any action by the insurgent or the terrorist creates what they have been doing to people, which is fear and coercion.
You see, the picture is quite clear about the point you made that an Igbo president doesn't necessarily mean a solution to the problem of insecurity in the Southeast. You have made a resounding case for that. Having vanguard groups makes it difficult. If we had integrated groups, it would be easier.
Good. And you can negotiate with them.
Having parochial groups is difficult.
It's difficult.
And then the government handling of some of the actions of these splinter groups has also not helped matters.
Yes.
But the thing is, I take it from the point you made that if 2023 Igbo presidency will not necessarily resolve this, then we need to look to other solutions.
There are other solutions.
And before we come to you, I'm going to ask, have you thought of other solutions?
Yeah.
Agreeing that 2023 may spearhead other solutions, but before 2023, because you see, let me ask Chiedu, did you do the count of how many police stations have been destroyed in Imo State, in Anambra State? How many? All of this, even if you have an Igbo presidency, he's not going to rebuild all of them in a day. But you need police. You need some infrastructure. The fear factor you're talking about, it will take time before it goes. So before 2023, how do we abate some of these signatures of criminality?
No, thank you so very much. Like when Dr. Okey was on, he mentioned something about the culpability of the Southeast governors in escalating this violence and the problem we have in the system and the elites. Now, when these elites, when these insurgents, different groups of them, the splinter groups we have in IPOB now, it's not just about IPOB, it's not about splinter groups. For the past, how many years, there have been about 12 major groups. Only 3 joined recently to make them about 15. Now, when I was the national youth leader for Hanese, and during this period, we have, when the issue of the protest by IPOB, it started with peaceful protests. Then the government started using army and police on them. From there, started using army and police, shooting and killing innocent protesters who are lawfully protesting. Now, at a point, we in the Ohanese now have to decide to send some of the youth leaders to meet with Nnamdi Kanu and other leaders of IPOB and the different groups. We started having meetings with all the different groups in the Southeast and asked them, what is the way forward? They put down their different reasons for agitation and what they want the government to solve, and they will come down. Then we all did every effort in our different capacities, different people, I don't need to mention them. Finally, they are now agreed at a meeting between the organization leaders, the religious leaders, and the governors in Enugu. Never did we know that the governors had another plan with the states, with the federal forces, the president of the federal forces. A different thing altogether from achieving the issue of reading in these people to talk. Because if we started that talk, that integrated system should have worked. Now what they did, by the time we finished the meeting at Enugu, the demands were made. They now told them they will get back to them. Instead of getting back to them, you know what happened next? They started governors and others proscribed IPOB, given the room for the presidency to now hit.
So engagement failed to happen.
They decided to abort the engagement.
Okay.
Honorable
Deliberately.
Tony, are you implying that in the question of IPOB and the efforts to engage them and the interventions or otherwise of the southeastern governors, the Igbo man became the problem of the Igbo man?
Now, let me tell you something. Pasha, know those that are in government are different from the common people. Those in government are the same, be they at the federal or at the state. That about that elite complacency that you mentioned earlier on. The elite complacency has always been there. The issue is that with the certain threat, let me not use that word, but with starting connivance with the federal element, with the federal forces, instead of going to the line that we have brought this so much needed peace, engagement, and understanding, they went beyond that and did something else. So by the time they now understood, excuse me, sir, but because I was fully involved in that process.
Okay.
Now, what we agreed was no longer what they did. They found a different resolution. In fact, we did not even know that we are having that meeting in Enugu, that the IG of police with the chief of army staff and others were also in a separate meeting there, waiting for them to give them what they needed for the Operation Python dance to come in. And now, those that should have been the access that will now bring about the talk, the IPOB and other people will now saw those elites as traitors. They no longer listen to them. Because by then, this would have been the best opportunity of now engagement and solving this problem. By the time that now was broken down by order from above, because I engaged our leader then, why did this happen?
So trust.
It became a question. Trust problem now came in. And
amongst the Igbos?
Yes, among the political leaders. The Igbos and on the top. Now the issue now is those that were thinking that they want to use to negotiate with the head of those prevent youths to now get some interest. They negotiated for certain power and interest. They didn't know that when you are doing political negotiation, a lot of manipulations and others come to be. In the end, by the time they realized the dangers of where they have led themselves at the youth, they started turning back, and then it was too late, and the state, the center could no longer hold. Now, when they started in this way, we didn't relent. And then later, there was also an opportunity to also, that was when they now got arrested and imprisoned the first time. When they later were moved for negotiation, they granted him bail. And we now went on talking. Instead of now allowing those processes that have been established, the military went to Narkari and they committed a heinous crime, shot and killed so many people, destroyed a lot of things, and that proposal was aborted. And that's how this then come to be.
I was actually in Abuja when we read about the military entry in there. But back to what I had asked earlier. If we're having challenges in the southeast,
sorry, talk about the issue. If the presidency will solve it, please let me now answer that. Now let me tell you something.
Just
Igbo presidency.
We're short
just one. Okay, Igbo president. It's not about having a certain president, but by the time you look for the president, look for that president that had the capacity to now fill in the gap that the leaders presently cannot field. That's the type of person we are looking for. So when we go to that side, is look for that person that's acceptable by the people, the person that has the capacity to listen and implement whatever that is done, that can build back trust. And when you do that, you see that gradually it will become a solution eventually to all these problems. Because that person can not only listen to IPOB, but also listen to the people, the bandits and others in North across Nigeria, and will start bringing development, economic empowerment and development that will now get the youth more and more engaged, and they will go away from being misled into terrorism, insurgency and others, and we have a solution that will now give self-government to different regions of Nigeria, which is the final thing what we do. As that it was in 1963. Let's go back to that point. Change this constitution to a constitution that's Republican and allow Nigeria to operate where every region develops at its pace, at its in UAE. And we have Nigeria a better place. Thank you and God bless.
Interestingly, we do not get our presidents by demand. We get them by elections.
Yes.
So until it's time for elections, we are still going to be asking in the meantime, what can we do? And Dr. Ode, maybe you can talk to us briefly about that.
You see, the problem they have is they misconceive a lot of issues. You can't go into, he's calling it elite conspiracy. It's not an elite conspiracy. It's because you people misunderstood what you were going into. You see, in every fragmented or polarized society, there are few opportunities for collective action.
Yes, that's true.
As far as that society is fragmented or polarized between the rich and the poor, there are very few opportunities for collective
Just to
action.
support you, it's difficult to find societies that are not casting that mode.
Yes, casting that mode. So it's very difficult. So thinking that they will support you, the kind of rhetorics, you know, Ebadi, the Iranian dissident, Nobel Prize winner, said that cruelty to man first begins with cruelty to words. The kind of rhetorics, high-minded rhetorics that was coming out from the IPOB camp never encouraged any form of support from that strata of the society. So change your words, you know, have more appealing words to people. You can't look at people and you call them goats or call them all kinds of zoo, all kinds of names, and you expect them to come to you. You see, the government made their own errors, which we can't take it away from them that they made errors. Because if they had moved very fast, they could have cured this thing at the earliest. And yes, through political engagements, a lot of issues could have been resolved. And it will still happen that way. It is still political solutions that will come to resolve this issue. But now, going forward, yes, there's need to have, for issues of justice, to have a president from the Southeast, because we have never provided, or we've never had a president from the Southeast. There's a Nigerian president from the Southeast since the advent of this democracy. It will help.
And that will help galvanize the Southeast.
Yes, it will galvanize the Southeast to give them a sense of belonging, that all their efforts towards a better Nigeria has not been in vain. It will also reduce criminality, because there are so many splinter groups. Those whose agitation is all about relevance will pull out. But those whose agitation is purely criminal will continue until you find another source of livelihood for them.
And then they will become isolated, and it will be easier to engage them.
They'll become isolated. So it's easier to engage them, as you said. But, you know, crime is also competitive.
Sure.
It's also competitive.
Sure.
Certain groups are doing their best to outbeat the other. So, but let's just depend on social justice. It will do us a very great good as a country. And I believe that Nigeria is transiting from a country to a nation.
Social justice, and that resonates across all the groups in the South, saying social justice, equity, fairness will assuage these raw feelings, inflaming the situation we are presently.
Let me tidy it up by saying social justice, not just from top to bottom, but also vertically among the All right, we have come to the end of today's edition of Side by Side, and I must say a big thank you to our special guest, Dr. Ode Ajike. is a national security expert, the principal attorney of Dolce Marina Solicitors, and convener of Aruba Center for Policy and Strategy, Abuja. And Honorable Tony Uche Ezekwelu, my friend, brother, who has invited me to Anambra State.
Yes.
He's a big farmer, an engineer, an industrialist, and a politician. Former Chief Whip of Anambra State House of Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
And our listeners, thank you for joining us on the program today. The next edition of Side by Side will come your way on Wednesday, the 11th of May at 11 a.m. Until then, keep listening to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. I am Reverend Father Robert Achiaga.
I am Chiedu Ude.
Bye.